Hey everyone, welcome back to this week's episode of Translation Differences in Genshin Impact. For this week, we are going to wrap up Chongyun and his combat lines. First up, his normal attack. They translated it as Demon Bane. I wanted to point out that in the Mandarin line, it's 灭邪四式. If I were to literally translate it, it would be like the four moves of destroying evil. In martial arts, wuxia writing, or even in xianxia writing, it is very common for forms to be accompanied with the number of moves that go with the form. Of these, most famous example would be the 18 dragon slaying, dragon subduing palms, 降龙十八掌. There are 18 moves in the form, and each move has a name. So I would not be surprised if someone could dig up where the four move names are for Chongyun. This one is interesting. Chonghua has to be an ancestor of his or his parents or someone within his family because it's the same Chong as Chongyun, and that's also a name that they romanized, so Chonghua. So we know that he is from a family or a clan of exorcists. So now we have a little bit more of a hint that all of the martial arts and the spells that are passed down are likely passed down within his family. The cloud parting star, 云开星落. I don't know if it's implied that the star is supposed to be falling down on someone and coming down like a comet, but that is what Xingruo is. The star is crashing down. So maybe kind of like Zhongli's ult, but not quite as big. There is nothing gallant being implied with 云游山海. 云游山海means like you've yeeted off somewhere to chill out. Like you've just gone somewhere. And that happens a lot with a lot of tropey things in Shinsha or Wuxia dramas is like someone's looking for the old master and the old master is just like, oh, I'm gonna go travel somewhere. So Yunyo Sanhai, like they've just gone somewhere and no one knows where they went. Nothing gallant about that. All right, let's talk about his constellations. The first thing to point out is that his constellation translation is not exactly correct. Qiankunfeng, we have to take it apart, is heaven and earth, if we take it word by word, or the cosmos in general. And then feng is the sharp point or the sharp edge of cutting something. So I think the combination of Qiankun and feng means that he is some sort of mystical blade for his constellation, as opposed to Nubis Kesor, which is like cloud cutter for my research. I think the difficult thing about translating Chen is that it doesn't really have a set meaning. Literally meaning it has like heaven and earth or cosmos, but it does get like used for other words like a Qianquan bag or a Qianquan sleeve would be like I guess like a bag of holding style thing or like a sleeve of holding style thing. Right? So it's like not exactly a translatable word. So I can see why they decided to do something else with it. All right, so starting with the first constellation, Ice Unleashed. Literal translation from the Mandarin, 士林永兵. If we take it apart, it is to release from up high a chant of ice. And I think it fits pretty well with his character, with how his E looks and how his Q looks, his elemental skill and his elemental burst, how they look when they're both basically ice blades or ice swords that come from high above. So, Constellation 2 is completely wrong, and I also don't know how they would go about translating this without confusing people who have never read a Wuxia book or Xinsha book or even came in contact with these types of generally accepted cultural understandings of what 周天运转 is. So when we say 周天运转 in a lot of wuxia and xianxia novels is that when they're gathering energy and they're training it, they're actually moving the energy throughout their body to strengthen themselves. So a 周天 means that the energy has gone through their body as a full cycle. And what they're doing is that they're absorbing energy from, the outside world and they're condensing it and they're gathering it within them and they're moving it through their body. That has absolutely nothing to do with atmosphere. It's just a way of training for them to get stronger. The next one we're going to touch on is C5, the true path, or 正道正理. There's always this thing where it's like, what is the true path and what is not in a lot of these martial arts wuxia xinsha novels. It's always quote unquote the good guys always go a certain path of training, and the bad guys always go another certain path of training, and that's how they differentiate what is quote unquote true versus the, I guess, like quote unquote evil paths. I From a viewpoint of good and evil and just in general, I think that that's what really makes these wuxia stories so complex and nuanced, is that what is good and evil is always gray area. There's never anything that's like 100% good or never anything that's 100% evil necessarily in a lot of these stories. So when people are arguing about, oh, well, we're the good guys, well, are they really? Not usually. So this is, I guess, where they're trying to go with his character, is that he follows along this very rigid set path that's been set forth in precedent. Whether or not that's the right one for him or the correct way for him, that's yet to be seen. So C6, Rally of the Four Blades, is also completely incorrect. The Mandarin line 四邻蓬盛 means to praise or to exalt the holiness of the four spirits. And the four spirits, the Siling in this case, refer to the four spiritual creatures in mythology and Chinese mythology. They are the Qilin, the same Qilin that Ganyu and Zhongli are related to, Fenghuang, the phoenix, Gui, the turtle, and Long, the dragon. So this one should be praise to the four spirits, but then I guess no one would really understand what the four spirits are unless you actually looked it up. And now we're going to go to his voice lines.
Present. 得令.
So this one doesn't mean present. 得令 means I've received an order, and this is important later on as it builds more on the character of Chongyun and the way his spells are cast. And a lot of these 方式 or these like Xinsha methods of describing their spell casting is that they aren't like just random chance and then a word like an effect happens. A lot of them are more of a command that they channel their energy through. So they not only speak the command, and they also channel their energy to then create the spell. So doing orders and commands is part of the whole theme packaging of Chongyun.
Barely a scratch. 小伤不足挂齿.
So this one, he uses a 成语不足挂齿. Literally, it means not enough to hang your teeth on. What that means is like a fancy way of saying don't mention it. So if someone is like being really grateful to you and thanking you for like something small that you did, you can just say 小事不足挂齿. Oh, it's something small. You don't need to like worry about it. It was a small thing.
Curb your fury. 你莫猖狂.
I don't know where they got curb your fury from. 你莫猖狂 is simply like don't get cocky. Basically, Chongyun here is also on low HP and he is upset and he's gonna get back at the person who hit him.
After all that training. 还是技不如人吗?
These are lines for when he gets defeated. So 还是技不如人. 技不如人 means I am not as good as other people. So it's not like after all that training, he's just saying, "Oh, still not good enough." So while the essence is there, the 成语 of 技不如人 doesn't make it across.
This spells the end of the exorcists.
入没了方式一门。
I really don't know what went wrong with his localization because I think this is the few times that I've seen multiple lines completely miss the mark. It's not the end of The Exorcist. 辱没了方式一门 means I have shamed the exorcists or shamed our schools of all exorcists. So obviously he's been defeated and he feels like he has brought shame upon the name of the 方式.
A touch of frost.
剑印染冰。
So remember how I said earlier, some of his spells are going to be more of a command line. We're going to see a lot of these coming forth with his elemental skills and his elemental bursts. This one is 剑印染冰. He is saying my sword will be stamped with and dyed with ice. So a touch of frost works, but he's commanding his sword to be dyed with frost.
Swift and merciful.
急如敕令。
So 急如敕令 is a command. It is saying to come quickly. 急 is to be very hasty, and then 敕令 is divine edict. So come quickly as if you have received some sort of divine edict. If you watch some other old 僵尸 films, some of them may say 急急如敕令 is like summoning quickly as if you have received a divine edict, and that's because a lot of Taoists use channel divine energy, or they believe they channel divine energy to cast a spell to do a command to cast a spell.
One with my blade.
听我法旨。
听我法旨 is also very much a command line. It's listen to my command. So again, it doesn't have anything to do with the English part of it. This is again channeling some sort of energy into a spell.
From whence you came.
邪魔退去。
邪魔退却 is closer to like evil be gone. So from whence you came also kind of fits. But remember what I was talking about, this is a whole theme and a package in the terms of spellcasting for him, is that they are more along the lines of commands than actual like spells.
Spirit blade. Attack.
宝印换剑。
So this one, I want to say when he says 宝印, he's using more of a magical seal or item that he's channeling for his spirit blades. Literal translation would be closer to like illusionary swords from a magical seal. And that is it for this week. Not sure who I'm going to start on next week, but if you have someone you'd like for me to give a look over and talk about the translation differences, feel free to leave a message. Remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys again.